All right, well, it's been about 6 months since we've done a tier list video, and we've made a lot of videos since then. We have about 10 new characters to go over, so just like before, if you want to see the older videos for tier list, you can click up here on YouTube, and if you need some disclaimers, here is where you can see those. And with that, let's just hop right into the video. Overall, what we're gonna need to do is first recorrect everybody since we've went through the durability patch, and also we've seen some buffs and nerfs since about January where we did the last video. You can also see that I made an F tier here as well. The main reasoning for that being that we're just getting really crowded around the C tier. I think with the durability patch we're gonna see a few champions make their way down even lower to the F tier. So for now it's empty because again this is what we left off on our last video. But let's start with those corrections first. So first and foremost, a lot of champions got better based on whether they're a tank or a tank killer or an enchanter, etc. A lot of those champions that benefited from that are burn champions, which you can see in our 12.16 best champion update video, to where we even saw some nerfs come through for champions like Brand specifically. Even with that nerf, Brand definitely doesn't belong in the D tier anymore. He's still not amazing, let's be honest, but he is a lot better than what he was pre-durability patch, where he was just very vulnerable and easy to catch out, and now he can do even more damage and is even more viable thanks to all his burn damage he can do and how good Leandra's is. So we're gonna move Brand up to at least the C tier. We'll think about maybe moving him higher into the B tier. Let me look at some of the other champions in there right now. Yeah, we're gonna move Brand up to the B tier for now. I think he's pretty viable in comparison to what he used to be. Moving on from there, another champion that has gotten a little better is Zyra. I mean, she gotten so much better that she deserves being S tier, more than likely not. We're gonna leave her there. Fiddelsticks just got a recent buff where his sphere durability or sphere duration went up about 0.25 seconds at level 1 and has continued to go up throughout the rest of the levels. He's been really nasty. I've seen a lot of him in solo queue recently as of late, and there seems to be a lot more people picking him up. I think that commonality is going to help push him up to the B tier for now. The old video that we made maybe doesn't cover the exact style that you should be doing in this current patch, but it's still viable, so go check that out if you want to see how to play support Fiddlesticks. Champions that have gotten worse thanks to the durability patch are typically those that are a bit tankier in nature. If we look up to the S tier, we see Zac and Maokai. Zac's still pretty effing ridiculous, honestly, and he can build burn AP, so that kind of mitigates that loss right there. Maokai, on the other hand, is a little bit overrated right now in the tier list. He's definitely gone down a little bit as opposed to pre-patch, when if you caught someone out, it basically meant a kill 100%. So we're going to move him down into A tier. Nico is kind of the same deal. She used to be very strong when she had that strong CC and could catch multiple champions. She's still a great team fight champion. I just don't believe she belongs in A tier any longer, so we'll move her down in front of Anivia here. Zoe, same kind of deal as Nico, so she's going to need to shift down as well, about 1 tier here. Amumu has been coming back into flavor recently, and with a few buffs coming his way as of the most recent patch has made him a monster, so we're going to move him up to A tier. Kale has to move down 100%. They nerfed her healing again. The build that we did the video on was kind of like an enchanter Kale support build, and obviously with healing going down, it makes her even worse as that type of support. So since that's what we judged her on, that's where she'll go. Malphite, a big draw for him as support was the fact that once you got to level 6, it was going to be a-okay. You could basically 100-0 your lane. It's not guaranteed anymore, and I just think his performance has been pretty lackluster. So Malphite is going to move down, probably still above Zoe here. And then also suffering from durability patch has definitely been LeBlanc. Overall, she's already been struggling in mid lane, and she obviously is going to struggle as the same amount in support as well. So we'll move her ahead of everybody else, excuse me, into D tier. Also, the last one that we're going to change here is Trundle. Their tank support meta is pretty much out. There are not many tank supports that are going to build strictly tank and then stay tanky to where you can, soak up their stats with your ultimate as Trundle, which was a lot of the reason why you would pick him as support. So Trundle has lost a little bit of value over the last patch here, or last patches here. We'll move him down to C tier, just barely above Malphite. And now we can move into our new videos that we've made since our last tier list video came out. So first on the list is going to be Zeri. So funny because the Zeri video that we did it on was an AP Zeri build on someone who made it to master tier with her, and ever since that video came out, we have been seeing more AP Zeris, but not in the support role, in the mid lane. They buffed her W recently. It hasn't really been effective, you know, on AP Zeri specifically, but it's always been super strong, and she still has that capability to 100 to 0 someone. She's very good at being a lane bully with that W and her ranged auto attack that outranges every other auto attack in the game, and also she can, of course, as we just mentioned, do a lot of burst as well. She is kind of niche. She is difficult to pilot, so I don't know if she's going to move all the way up to something like B tier, but we will move her with a lot of our other cast into the C tier. Here she is, again, pretty niche, but if you can pilot her correctly, she can be very, very strong, as we've seen in the mid lane over the past couple of patches. Twisted Fate support, I think, is pretty cracked if you play him properly. He really thrives in a heavy roam meta. It is a little bit more difficult to roam as him because he is a little bit squishier than a lot of those roamers, doesn't have as much upfront damage, but the real draw of Twisted Fate support is that you have a point and click stun very often. A point and click stun was previously, before durability patch, a lot more significant, but it hasn't lost much value afterwards, especially when you're doing that in a few seconds back to back from another, really locking someone down and helping your team get off picks. Roaming is still very much heavy in the meta at this moment, so Twisted Fate support can work well. We did see Predator nerfs since the video, which this Twisted Fate support build ran, but I don't think that's hurt him too much. So I'm going to move TF support, maybe a little bit surprisingly, but I do see a lot of value in him, into the B tier up here. I think he's really strong. If you can get the play style down and you have an AD carry that will cooperate with you, he definitely can make it work. Nasus support. So Nasus support really started when LS began tweeting a lot about it and saying how it could be a direct counter to many champions, and also worked pretty well. Now, there were some games in other regions where we did see a Nasus quote-unquote support with a fasting Senna, which doesn't really count because if you're farming, you're more of the AD carry role overall. But the LS build that we're talking about here was true support, where you're basically maxing Wither and then also then maxing your E. You're not stacking at all. You're really there as a slow and attack slow bot for your team, which can be pretty effective if you're against certain champions like Kalista, if you're against certain champions like Kog'Maw or Vayne, these characters that really want to sit back, auto attack you, and try to be elusive from your team. Nasus really thrives in an environment where he's against an ADC like that. As you may know, Kalista and other hyper carries have definitely made their way back in the meta when it comes to AD carry champions, and especially in pro play. Does that mean that he's a very viable support for solo queue? Not really. It's pretty difficult to get down, to be completely honest with you, and I don't think your team's going to react super well to you picking Nasus support, or even understand that another main draw from Nasus support is getting that armor shred on his E on champions, to where they're more than likely not going to time their attacks right on it or their abilities right correctly. I think you're going to suffer a lot from that, and he thrives a lot more in a team environment. I'm pretty sure even LS himself mentioned that this is more than likely only going to work well in either a ranked flex environment or an actual professional League of Legends esports team environment. So Nasus support, with all that being said, it hurts me. I do think it's super interesting and fun, but he's going to have to make his way down to the D tier, definitely above Nidalee and Vex, but more than likely not LeBlanc. Nunu support. Nunu support is so cool. The video itself, I don't think really reached a lot of people, but that's fine because it's such an interesting build, and the two players that we did the video on both played it as almost a similar to Twisted Fate support, where you're going to be a heavy roaming support, really trying to make plays for your team, but also as a huge AP burst champion. His snowball does a ridiculous amount of damage. You can really help your team secure objectives and even go for objectives on the enemy jungler, even if your jungler is not around. But you can be pretty potent throughout the whole game and have a really large impact on not only your lane, other lanes, and then also junglers as well. So Nunu support, the only maybe downside here is, again, burst champions are not as good as they were in previous patches, but Nunu does such a ridiculous amount of damage if he gets a few kills or even 1 or 2 kills, that he can really make a solid impact of the game. And of course, again, you have that benefit of being a really heavy roam support. All that being said, is he as good as, let's say, Twisted Fate, who we just ranked in the B tier? I think if you really know how to pilot Nunu support and you're really good with his snowball, he's more than likely a little bit even better than Twisted Fate support. So I don't think it's fair for me to say that he would go into C tier. We will put him just barely above TF over here in the B tier. Moving on from that, we have kind of more of a meta support champion. Obviously, Vel'Koz is played very heavily in mid lane also, and the person that we did the video on Azap, who is a pretty large streamer on Twitch and also has a YouTube channel if you want to go check him out, does play him in both middle and support. He has had more he has had more success on Vel'Koz recently in the support role, playing some wacky builds that we didn't even cover in the video. And I do think Vel'Koz is one of those champions that has really thrived with the updates from 12.16 because, again, his passive gives you true damage. And even if someone does build pretty heavy into defense, you can still do a crap load of damage with them, even with a little amount of money. Vel'Koz is definitely super relevant in this meta right now, and I don't think it's going to be fair if I rank him below something like Xerath or Zyra up there, because he really fits into that same category, and maybe even better. I do believe his win rate is higher than both of theirs right now, around a 52%. So it feels like I would be lying to myself if I put him any lower than in the A tier, where I do believe he belongs. I'm going to put him a little bit below Xerath at this point, but still pretty viable in the support role. Definitely a good pick if you pick him properly. Syndra support. So Syndra support is an interesting one. You would think you would want to pick Syndra support as kind of a burst champion that would really assist your team in just netting kills, but the person that we did the video on really plays her more as a pick and CC champion because her QE combo is so potent and is so long range. So it really makes it super easy for your team to follow up on and also make plays with. So unlike our other casters or damage dealers or burst champions that have made their way further down the tier list thanks to the durability patch, Syndra, at least in this play style that we did the video on, is not really super affected. That being said, I do still want to point out that your QE stun combo is on a pretty long cooldown. You're kind of a sitting duck a lot of the time, and even though she has some cool ability like with some of our other champions to use Everfrost and lock someone down for a long time, I really don't think she can honestly make her way above, let's say, someone in the C tier like Zoe, who also can lock someone down for that long, Ahri, who does kind of the same thing, Lissandra, who maybe has a more potent ultimate, but still I just don't see Syndra making her way much higher than that. She definitely is a fun pocket pick if you're super comfortable on Syndra or looking to get an S on her, but should you pick her all the time in your ranked games? More than likely not, unless you are just, again, super confident on her. So Syndra support, I guess she'll have to go around the same area as Ahri and Zoe into the C tier, which again is getting pretty crowded. We're going to reevaluate at the end here if we need to move anybody down. Swain support. So I'm going to be completely upright and honest about Swain support. I'm going to be a little jaded here because after I made the Swain support video, I picked him up pretty heavily in the support role, and I've had a lot of success on him. I just think he's a very versatile champion, not only in the fact that you can easily blind pick him and people will not know with 100% assurance if he's being played top or AD carry or mid or even support. So he has a lot of power there, but also he works very nicely in the durability patch. And ever since his buffs, I believe he's gotten even stronger to where he gets so much more health, can really be a nuisance, and you can really flex his build into your situation. Kind of similar to Zillion, where you don't always have to buy the exact same path every time, or just change one or two items like we see with a lot of our characters in the A tier. You can really adapt to the enemy team and still be effective in some way, whether that be building Leandries, building Everfrost, building a Thornmail, building a Merlinomicon. You have a lot of options with Swain support to where he feels super powerful to me. Now, I want to be realistic here. I want to look to see if he is better than, let's say, people that we've ranked in the B tier, because, you know, jump decision is I want to put him in S or A tier. I just don't think he is as strong as someone like Zac or Zillion, so S tier is really out of the question. And again, after all that being said, I'm just going to have to put him in the A tier. I'm going to put him below a Mumu and Maokai because they offer a little bit more for their team in overall CC, and Swain is kind of the middle ground, jack of all trades between damage, CC, durability, etc. So he'll go to the bottom of the A tier for now. And in support, Kennen Support was our most recent video. We actually analyzed 3 players who are doing doing it 2 in Korea and 1 in EU West, and all of them are either very close to master or master already at the point of making this tier list video. I do believe that there is something to be said about Kennen Support, the fact that you don't have to use mana at all, the fact that you had this huge AoE ultimate that can be a potential complete game changer for your team, but he just feels a little awkward to play. He's a little, you know, lackluster in lane overall. He can have a pretty difficult time staying safe as well as trying to land a stun, which of course is going to be one of your main goals as the champion, and you really have to wait, kind of similar to Malphite support, until level 6 so you have huge impact for your team. But once you do get to level 6, it does get a lot easier. He's definitely one of those champions that as you snowball more, the game's gonna become easier and easier for not only for you but for your team. So I can understand where he could slot in better, but again, he's not much different than something like Malphite support, and he's not much better than something like Neeko support that offers a little bit more in the early and mid game than Kennen does, unless he has a lot of items or gold. So with all that being said, we're gonna move Kennen to the C tier, right around maybe ahead of Malphite, because he has a little bit of a better presence in the early game than Malphite does. And to round out the video, I know these are gonna hurt, so I'm just gonna get through them quickly. We did do videos when we had Janna's kind of mini rework come out, as well as Renata being released, and I know those aren't really off meta, so that's why I wanted to leave them towards the end here. But my goal over time is to eventually make a huge support tier list that basically talks about every champion, at least that's somewhat viable in the support role, which I think we're doing a good job here at this moment. So Janna and Renata, it's a no-brainer right now. They're both Enchanter-like champions. They both are very powerful in the meta. I think both of them at this moment are above a 52% win rate overall in Platinum Plus. So just to make it quick, Janna obviously is going to go in S tier up here, and then Renata obviously is going to go in S tier right here at this moment. I know, again, they're not, you know, legitimately off meta, but I just thought I'd include them because, again, we're doing every one that we did a video on. One more time, we'll look at corrections here. We want to organize this in, you know, best to worst basically overall. So if that's the case, I guess we'll move Janna up and Renata up over here, and Zillion up as well. I think Zillion's better than Renata, honestly. Is Zillion the best out of all of them? I'm gonna put Zillion in the way front. I think Zera's better than Zyra. I think Vel'Koz is better than Zyra. I think Zyra is probably at the end here, actually. Let's just do that. Let's move a Mumu up as well. In our B tier here, Neeko's probably going to keep her way all the way at the top. I still think she's somewhat viable. Nunu's probably better than Nivea, honestly. Shen's pretty far up there. Twitch is pretty niche. Brand is a lot better, honestly, than even Shen at this point. I like the roaming supports. With that being said, Twitch makes his way up there as well. And then Fiddlesticks is just a force to be reckoned with right now. So we'll put him below Brand because he is pretty viable. C tier, we're really going to be looking at moving around those tanky champions to later on. So with that, Trundle towards the end here, Ornn towards the end here, Kennen and Zoe and Malphite, probably Malphite a little bit further towards the end here. Sylas is pretty matchup dependent, so that's fine. Set is struggling in the support role a bit as of now, so probably put him behind Sylas. Elise, don't love. I think Zeri's better. Lysandra is like the queen of picking, so we'll put her probably above Zoe. Kennen, I don't hate Kennen in C tier, honestly. He also is very good at picking. So we'll move Syndra up as well. Zoe there. Jarvan should go a lot lower. He is tanky and has never been that good. Poppy is pretty situational, so we'll move her down. Probably above Sylas, though, because they're both very situational. Rumble, game-changing ultimate. Beyond that, not much more. Honestly, he cannot go above either Sylas or Poppy. They're a lot more effective than him on average, I would say. And honestly, what is Elise doing up here? So we'll do that and that. D tier, from best to worst. Yeah, LeBlanc probably deserves to be up here. Yeah, everyone's in correct order here except for Nidalee. Oops, you're the worst one on the whole list, Nidalee. Maybe not worse than Killed. All right, fine. We'll give Nidalee a little bit of a break. I think we're looking good. So if you guys have any opinions or questions or concerns about this, make sure you leave them below in the comments. I definitely am not perfect here. These are definitely strictly my opinions. Let me know your thoughts and who we're missing, who should be some of the next videos coming up, who should be moved around. If you guys like this one, as I mentioned previously, you should definitely go check out our last tier list video so you can see how these people made their way into their original spots at that moment, or go check out some of those tutorial guides that we've done in the past as well. Thanks guys for tuning in and checking out this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.